Yo! Hey, welcome to Word of Mouth Podcast with Nate and Shelby. What's good? What's good?
Everything
Yes. This is the day
that
that
the
the
Lord
Lord
has
has made.
made.
We shall rejoice and be glad. Listen, we want to chat about some real stuff today, and I'm going to just put it to the test.
No, Nate wants to talk about this stuff. I was saying, I don't know about that, but
I think we might as well just go ahead
I'm
and put it to
game.
the test. Let's do it. Let's do it. We want to talk about relationships, the different perspective from a male and a female perspective. Now, y'all do know that Shelby is a female
Thank you, Jesus.
and I am a male. So we're just going to give our own perspective. This is not speaking for every
Yes,
man, and
that's
this is
true.
not speaking
Absolutely.
for every woman. This is just our perspective because this is Word of Mouth Podcast with Nate and Shelby. So let's kick it off. Perspective. Of course, I got to start off with a question. All right.
Let me steal myself. Okay, I'm ready.
Yes. My question to you, Shelby, let's kick it off. What's your perspective and your take on relationships?
Well, there's all kinds of relationships. So are you talking about a romantic relationship or are you just talking about relationships in general?
I want to start off with just relationships in general because I think that you need to have relationships with certain people, certain things, a relationship with God. I think that it's important to understand what a relationship is. So I just want your perspective on relationship.
Well, to me, a relationship is any kind of interaction with someone that's on a semi-steady basis, like it could be a coworker or whatever, but someone who it's not just a brief encounter. That to me is an acquaintance. So a relationship requires a little bit of time, some kind of interaction that's a constant, I think. Whether it's talking on the phone or whatever. It doesn't have to be like you're in the presence of that person necessarily, but it can be. But yeah, it has to be something that there's some kind of contact that's kind of semi-steady, consistent a little bit.
Consistent contact.
Yeah,
That's
a little bit.
steady.
Yeah.
And that's with a person. Okay. Okay. I agree with that. I think that relationships, you need to be able to relate to that person. I look at the root word of relationship. I think that the most important part is to relate.
Yes.
And in relating to, if we're talking about each other from a male or a female perspective, is it important to be able to relate to a person before you start a relationship?
Again, it will depend on what kind of a relationship we're talking, because you can have a coworker. You don't have to have any kind of, like, you can relate on the work basis, the work aspect, but it doesn't mean you're going to relate on anything else. And if you have like a peer at school or something like that, you might relate because of a course you're taking, but you may not relate on any other aspect. So
these are different aspects of relating.
yes,
We're relating whether it's school based, relating whether it's work based,
topic based, I guess is what we could say, or I don't know.
Okay, okay. Let's jump head first in romantic.
Oh yay!
Head first in romantic.
Because I'm such a pro at those things, aren't I?
Woo! So, how do you picture relating to someone romantically?
Well, I think there has to be something within them that interests you, that sparks something within you to want to spend time with them, to want to get to know them, to want to invest in them.
Invest. Wow.
And I'm sure for a lot of people, it can be a physical attraction that starts the thing off. I'm sure for some, it's going to be a heart issue, that you can see that person's heart, you can see that person's inner self, and that sparks interest in you. But there has to be something that draws you together.
Gotcha.
Outside of like a job or or school or something like that. There's got to be something between the two of you that draws you together.
If I was to take my cue from what you just said, there has to be something to draw me to that person. I'm going to speak as a man.
Please do. Because you are one.
Facts. What if it's the physical that draws you to that person? Can you go into a relationship like that only based upon the physical of what men can see in a woman?
Sure. Lots of people do it. That's a surface type of relationship, in my opinion, but a lot of people do it.
Okay. Do you consider that a relationship though? Because if I'm just relating to your physical body, then once that fades, what else do I have?
But people don't think about that until it starts happening, and then they backpedal and, oh crap, what did I do?
So
Like, if she got a nice booty or whatever, okay, that booty might be nice right now, but in a few years, that booty going to sag a little bit and it's not going to be what. So you got to have something else besides the booty.
amen. That is true. That is true. And I'm gonna be frank. Sometimes we do go after the physical. We tend to look at a woman's physical aspect, and I think sometimes we do base it upon starting a relationship with them because we see the physical. Not some of us may kind of dig into the mental and the emotional, but physical is a major thing. I feel like that.
Yes, because men are visual. I think for men, it is more so about the physical.
So women don't look at the physical?
No, we do. I'm just saying that men are more visual than women are. That's a proven fact.
So do women look at the physical?
Yes, absolutely. I think women look at the physical, but I think if there are a lot of really attractive women that sometimes you'll go, what is she doing with him?
Wow.
Because we'll look at the physical, but we can look past the physical.
Women can look past, we're digging deep. So women can look past the physical and just like look into his heart, look into his, really?
That's where it's at.
But you do.
I'm not saying all women. I'm just speaking that I think in general, yes. Like we can look past the physical.
Oh my God.
Because I don't think we want to be judged purely on our physical. So why should we judge others or men that we're interested in purely on their physical appearance?
I'm glad you brought that up. So we were talking a little while ago.
I just play right into your hands all the time.
Thank you. I'm glad that you literally said that, because a while ago we were talking about physical appearances when it comes to women and what you all have to go through to maintain this level of, I guess, standard for women.
right.
Whether you're doing your nails, your hair, your
All of the above.
all of the above. Like you go through this whole, and I don't say this in a bad way, metamorphosis where you have to become that, in which is it accepted or something to that sort? Because if that's the case, then shouldn't we do the same thing as men? Because
But society doesn't put that pressure on men. It's just like you and I have said before, because we do TikTok. How many filters out there are for men? There are not many. I don't really know of any, and I could be wrong, but there's a whole crap ton of filters for women.
yes.
What does that say in and of itself?
I mean, well, that actually opens a lot of doors of discussion, especially for women, because you have to live up to a huge standard, especially if you're basing it upon filters or models or TV or anything. Like, when is there a breaking point where you can just accept yourself and know that a man wants you for you, instead of you having to go out and have surgeries? You have to go out and do all this other stuff. When is there a point where you realize that men, or women realize that men just want them for them? Is there ever a point in that?
I think that depends on the man.
Oh, men hear that. She said, I think that depends on us. Now, do we secure the woman in letting her know that she is beautiful physically? Should we secure that? It's a good question, man.
I think, well, I just texted this to someone the other day. If a man makes a woman secure, feels secure, and I'm talking about the whole picture, secure, not just protected, but her heart's covered, her emotions are covered, all that, then she will, how did I phrase it? We were talking about the physical aspects, and she will participate greatly in the physical if she feels really secure, because she's going to relinquish all of those walls are all going to come down, right? So basically, I'm saying in the bedroom, she's probably going to be a little more with it.
Comfortable.
Yes.
Okay.
If
He secures
the
her.
security is there,
Gotcha.
because there will be she doesn't have to keep walls up. She doesn't have to protect herself.
But isn't there, that sounded like really terrible English. There's such a level of competition when it comes to women. Like, let's talk about the beach. When you go to the beach, women see a lot of other women in bathing suits. And you may not have the body of the other person that you see in a bathing suit. Do you shy away from how you are as a person? Because even if you're with your spouse, your husband, your significant other, do you shy away and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to cover up because I don't have that?
Me personally, yes, I did for years. Absolutely. There was no question. Even when and this is why for young girls, okay, I was overweight when I was a child because I was on steroids. But then as I grew up, I still had this visual in my head of being overweight, but I was not overweight. And so therefore, because I had that programmed into me, I would barely wear a bikini in front of my girlfriends when we would go to the beach, just because I was so
Self-conscious?
yes, insecure about it. And so now looking back, like I tell my daughter all the time, if I could go back and be your age, and this is going to sound bad, but I would walk around naked all the dang time, because now I couldn't, I wish I could get that back. But when I was living in that, I was totally mortified by my body, and my body was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with it at all. I wasn't even overweight.
So was it something that you saw? And I know, of course, we're speaking of our age. We're speaking back then. Was it because of what you saw on TV? Was it because you were...
No, I think for me personally, it was because I was picked on for being fat. But see, I was a different situation, because I was fat because I was on drugs. Had to be, because otherwise I'd been dead. So what's the option,
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that was just programmed, and I was picked on so much for it that's just how I saw myself. Even though I was a size 8 or 6 or whatever, that's not how I saw myself in my head. And I know as I've gotten older, you do get to a point where you don't give a crap. Like, you don't give a crap. I am who I am. You get comfortable with yourself. You're like, y'all can think whatever you want, but I'm going to live my life now, because I've lived all these years trying to placate everybody else. Now I'm just going to live for me.
Wow. I'm glad you put it in that, especially in that perspective, because if I can speak for a man again, we would take confidence over comparison any day. And men, I need you to tap in right here, because I feel like if we see that you are confident in who you are, we may step up and secure that aspect and be the men that we're supposed to be, because you're confident in who you are from a physical standpoint. Because I think the only thing that you all, or women, that you all face is the competition and the comparison of society. as you were talking about with filters and different things that you can do in social media and stuff like that, like even with people taking pictures of themselves in gyms and stuff like that, like they're wanting the attention of something so
They
that you
want
can feel
validation.
that you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So with confidence, it's more attractive.
Definitely. Even with, yes, women looking at men, a confident man is much more attractive. Now, there is a fine line between confident and cocky. And me personally, I will not. If you're cocky, phew, I'll play with you. I will. I'll play with you. But I know where you stand, and I have no interest in that.
Men, let's talk about it because there is a difference between cocky and confident. I think we have been subject as men to think that women want to see the physical aspect in a way that it's pleasing to everyone, whether you have the muscles or the tall, dark, and handsome, or the this and that, what actors have. And sometimes we get it twisted to where if we're not that, this is just men, if we're not that, I don't think we look at ourselves in a terrible way. I just think that we just say, oh, well, accept me for who I am. Some do get cocky, and I've ran into a lot of men that get way too cocky where you love yourself more than she can love you. And you got a whole relationship with yourself more than the woman, and that's a bad area.
But there are some women that are attracted to that. I just am not. And I don't think the bulk of us are, but I think definitely confidence is attractive regardless. Across the board, I think confidence is attractive. But yes, cockiness. And women can get cocky too. It's not solely men. But it's a turnoff.
Yes, women can get cocky. Women will get all this stuff, whether it's paid for or whether you worked hard for it, and they will become very, very cocky and become a turnoff to men because you think that now you're
Above.
yeah, and that's not appealing. That's not appealing.
And I think it goes both ways. I think that's factual on both
Yes,
sides.
I 100% agree with that. You said something earlier that I do want to tap into from a male perspective. Why do you think it's important to look a certain way on the outside to men?
Why do women need to look a certain way?
Yes, because if we have accepted you, if men have accepted you for who you are, why do you feel like you have to become something?
It has to come from outside sources. That's where the pressure would come from. If you're secure in your relationship with the man you're with, it would have to come from outside sources. Now, that could be family, that could be friends, that could be, societal norms. It could be all kinds of stuff.
Is that considered validation as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It all boils down to that.
Okay. So let me play advocate right there. What happens when that attention from outside sources become all that person want, and it's coming only from the outside sources, and it's not coming from that person?
Then you're probably going to stray in your relationship and find validation somewhere else if you're not getting it at home.
I wanted to bring that out, fellas and ladies, because we do accept a lot of validation from outside sources, and it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're not getting it from the one person that you're trying to strive to get it from. But also, the longer you're in a relationship, we all become complacent. And that's across the board. So the validation still has to exist, and you have to cultivate it if your relationship is going to last. It has to be something that it has to be consistent.
Gotcha. Now this is personal. I speak from a personal standpoint when I say this. I'm not the guy that doesn't accept compliments from other men about the person that I'm with. I feel like it's okay to see that I'm with such an amazing, wonderful, beautiful person. Like, I'm not jealous, I'm not envious about it. I want people to see, not from a trophy standpoint, but I want them to see that God has blessed me with something so amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about it.
Right.
And I want others to see that I'm happy about it. And sometimes, as you just said, sometimes that can turn into a monster, basically, because validation is coming from everywhere else. Now, I think, in your words, I have to cultivate that. And even from me, she has to know you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're awesome, and all these different things as she's receiving it from everywhere else. And it, or would it balance her?
I would think so, but when I just stated that we get complacent in relationships, something just struck me when you said that we even get complacent receiving compliments, receiving validation from people. Because when you've been with someone for so long, sometimes if you're not truly feeling it in your heart, it's kind of like, well, they're just saying that.
Explain that more.
Well, because I
Complacent?
think your own insecurities kind of creep in, your intrusive thoughts, and they're like, well, yeah, he's saying that, but he doesn't really mean it.
Wow. Wow. I never looked at it from that. So now men are confused because I've never ever even heard or thought about that a woman can get complacent even in my compliments or the way I'm treating her, that it becomes complacent.
She can become complacent in receiving those things, I think.
So what do I do then?
Well, I think at that point you have to realize it, you have to see it. And
That takes discernment right there. And I'll be
yes, it
honest,
does.
I can probably say I've made that mistake if that has happened 10 times out of 10 because I didn't know. I didn't know that a woman could become complacent in me treating her.
Well, it's kind of like a rejection of your compliments, right? It's not just complacency. It's kind of a rejection of and it stems from insecurity, I think. So, I think as time goes on and your relationship goes on over decades or whatever, I just think that that's a possibility if things aren't right.
Wow, you're flooring me. I, feel,
I can tell.
I am floored. I thought that it was important.
Okay, how about this? Maybe I need to say it because something just hit me. If you are showing me in other ways that what you're telling me is not facts and what you're complimenting me on is just words because your actions are showing me other things,
Got it.
then I am not receiving what you're telling me.
Got it. So your actions
I
have
needed
to
to
match.
explain it better. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So absolutely. If your actions in our relationship are not adding up to what you're saying with your mouth, I ain't going to believe it.
Got it. Got it. And men, we have done that before. Like we'll sit up and we can be around our friends, our family, and we'll be like, "Oh, my beautiful wife, this," or "Don't she look good in this?" And then when we get home, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I hate you. You know, I see what you
So
mean
you
by
say you
that.
hate me, I will be out of there. I'll be like, okay, yeah, let's revisit that somewhere else.
But I see what you mean by that because we can be can I say relationship bipolar in so many different ways that she's not receiving this on the outside. I mean on the inside, but on the outside you're making her look like she's everything. To
Well, yeah, we
everyone.
paint a real pretty picture to all the people on the outside of our relationship, right?
Oh,
We don't want to be vulnerable and expose what it's really like when we close those doors at home.
oh my God, she's going into some deep area. Before we end this segment, I want to be transparent right here. I was I was in that class, not from the perspective of treating her or making her feel like she's amazing on the outside. We painted a picture for the church to make us look a certain way on the outside. And when we got home, it wasn't that in which we were portrayed to be on the
Yeah.
outside. I lived that life and I'm not ashamed to say that. And I thought it was better for me to portray something on the outside so that people wouldn't judge. And I'm not I'm not a person that want to display my personal life
Right.
to everyone.
Right.
But they didn't know what was going on the inside.
But I think if we examined every relationship out there, we all have done that because it's a societal norm that you do that. Like, we don't want to expose our relationship soft underbelly. We don't want to put the ugly truth out there sometimes. But I think the ugly truth is across the board. There's no perfect relationship. And so we're all dealing with the ugly truth to some extent. But we just put on this happy face.
Yeah.
So everybody thinks that we're killing it.
So how do we help others? My transparency can say to men, hey, don't hide away from who you really are, in-house and out-house. Be that consistently. But how do we do that and not be ridiculed, judged, treated different, talked about?
Well, it goes. That's a two-sided thing. That happens with women too, and it's just until we do those things and make it a consistent thing and make it the norm, you're going to face all that. You're going to face judgment. You're going to face persecution. You're going to face people looking down at you. All of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how you get around it without doing it.
So then do we just not get in relationships? Because it's, I'll use actors and actresses or just famous people. You look at Angelina Jolie and who was she with?
Brad Pitt.
Pitt. Their marriage was crap after it, dissolved. But we saw perfection. Will Smith and Jada. We saw this perfection on the outside, but it was, going through so much on the
They're
inside.
human just like the rest of us.
Period. And that's what we need to deal with more
Yes.
than trying to portray something that's perfect.
Right.
And it's really not.
Right. But unless we put ourselves out there, it ain't going to stop. I mean, it has to start somewhere.
Yes.
Everything has to start somewhere. If you're making a change, everything has to start somewhere.
Yes.
So you're either going to be willing to out yourself and willing to live in reality. And when you're in a relationship, your significant other has to be willing too, because otherwise you're going to out things and they're going to, turn their back on you because they're going to feel that they've been betrayed.
And they're going to out you. Wow. Woo, that's a powerful statement. They're going to out you. And you don't want that because the person that you're with, you have a level of trust with them and for them that you don't want
Yes.
to become that in which.
The person that you're with should be the softest place to fall.
God, we have to end right there. She said the person that you're with should be the softest place you fall. God. We're coming back with part 2 in just a moment.